Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, what life is like in the industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical topics throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, as well as Granby and Amherst, too. His tours spotlight the canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the Emerson White Playground, located in Springfield, Mass. So where in Springfield is the White Playground located?
Alright, it's found on 77 Marble Street in Springfield, Massachusetts. Easy to get to. It's diagonally across the corner from the Water Shops Armory, a very historical place within Springfield. It's a very busy intersection on one corner, but the other streets that make up its sides are not that busy at all. And they have a nice pavilion made there, so it's easy to spot that you're at the right place. Okay, now today we're going to talk about the inside of this playground area. We're also going to talk about the outside, and we're going to talk about how this fits into a name series of park called the Bill family of parks. And that's important because I like that things have connections between each other. So, nice place to go. I hope you go and visit and experience it yourself and see what's around. And we'll talk about what's in there.
And what is inside the playground like?
Right, the inside, of course, it has a normal 2 different levels of playground sets, one for the older children and one set for the younger children. Alright, and it has one baseball field that I could spot inside there. There's a lot of park benches along the one entrance of it. And then it has a lot of greenery, so you can go walking around the far sides. It does have its own parking lot, and that's very helpful to get into there. And it has one outdoor basketball court, and of course, it's also defined by what's outside, so we will talk about that. But most importantly, it has a pavilion in the area, and so make sure when you go there that you can use that. It's down a bit of a hill. So it's quite a nice little place to go and entertain yourself. Now remember that it's spelled a different way from what you expect. And a lot of people have it wrong. Emerson's easy, but White is Wight.
And really quick, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And for more information or for private tours, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, and his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So, getting back to our interview, how does the park fit into the Bill family of Springfield?
Okay, good question, because I like this family. Nathan Bill started up a series of 5 parks. The last one was named after him after he died. But his father and his wife and his father-in-law all have parks named after them. And he was he was the head of the Parks Commission within Springfield. And he got a lot of these parks going, and other parks too. These are just the ones named after his family. So I'll tell you what they are. In chronological order, is the Emerson White Park is the oldest one of all. That's from 1908. And the Emily Bill Park is from 1912. That's on Franklin Street. The Gurdon Bill Park, named after his father, from 1916, is on Liberty Street. The Ruth Elizabeth Park from 1922 is on Walnut and Hickory Streets. And then the Nathan Bill Park from 1942, renamed 1947, is on Plum Tree Road near Allen Street. And remember, these are all in a family that are all related. So Gurdon Bill and Emily Bill are his father and mother. Then there's Nathan himself. And then Ruth Elizabeth White, which is this park, it was his wife. So this park here was named after her. It was named after her even when she was still alive, whereas the other cases, the people already died. And she didn't die until 1950, so she knew that there was a park out there named after her. And there's also the Emerson White Park, which was her father. So Ruth Elizabeth White had a father named Emerson Wright. And this park right here was formed in the 1890s, but it wasn't until much later that this park we're dealing with was finally named after Emerson herself. And so you have some really cool family relationships on these really cool parks, and Nathan and Bill did a great job getting all these beautiful parks going, and Springfield still maintains them to a very high degree.
Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the Emily Bill Park, located in Springfield, Massachusetts. So where is the Emily Bill Park?
The Emily Bill Park, of course, in Springfield, is named after Emily Bill, part of the Bill family. So today we're going to be talking about where it is and what it's like within the park, and then what other parks are made by or for the Bill family, and whether this park is well maintained. Okay, so if you want to find this park itself, you have to go along Franklin Street. Alright, and there you'll see some buildings around that are very similar to each other as you go along. So it's a really cool place to be. Alright, and Emily Bill Park is pretty easy to find. And remember who it is. It's the wife of Gurdon Bill, and I'm going to have podcasts and videos for each one of the Bill family parks and each one of the legacy parks. And Gurdon Bill was a person that loved parks, and when he died, his son Nathan Bill donated the family's mansion and land to Springfield to have a park there. And when Emily Bill died, the mother of Nathan, he did the same for her. And then his uncle was named after, had the same name as Nathan. So there's two Nathan Bills, and Nathan Bill was on the board of directors for the Parks and Playground in Springfield, and he's called the father of the parks and playgrounds of this community. And so it's a very wonderful place to visit. And that leads to the next question.
And what is it like within the park?
Okay. Now, when I went to the Gurdon Bill Park and the Emily Bill Park, I immediately got a sense, these two parks are very similar. And why not? If you're going to have one for the husband and one for the wife, why don't you make them very similar to one another? Okay, now besides that, it has a spray area for the young children, has a couple of maintenance buildings along its left side, has a section for the younger kids with swings also, and they have similar signs through a lot of the parks of Springfield itself. And inside of it, it does tell you that they've done recent renovations, and that's very obvious, because everything's very shiny out there. Also, when you go in the park, there's a trail off to one side, there's a baseball field off to a side, and I think there's a small play area for children towards the maintenance buildings. Yeah, and you can actually go up to a higher one and a lower one. So it's a pretty cool place.
And really quick before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at hoyocanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. So what other parks are made by the Bill family?
Alright, so this is the Emily Bill Park, and her husband has one named after the Gordon Bill Park. And there's also Nathan Bill Park, who was the brother of Gordon Bill. And there's also the Emily Bill Park, who was the wife of Nathan Bill. And then there's the Ruth Elizabeth Park, who was the mother-in-law of Nathan Bill. So a lot of parks are named after this big Bill family. And that's wonderful. And there's a lot of similarities between these parks. And there's also legacy parks around that are very similar to these. And in fact, the Ruth Elizabeth Park belongs to one of those parks. Was on the board of commissioners of parks and playgrounds. And he's called the father of Springfield's parks and playgrounds for a good reason. Because he got a lot of them going even outside the Bill family parks. And so it's important to remember, sure, there's these 5, but there's many more that he came up with. There might be like 8 more that he came up with. And so that for a good reason, he got this going. He wasn't the first, and he didn't make the first parks at all, but he got them going strong and quick. And Springfield really needed those 100 years ago. Remember that you don't have many farms in cities like this. And so in a farm, children go play out in the farm. In the cities, you don't have naturally a place to play because your backyard's so tiny. And so parks and playgrounds are like the farmlands of old.
And is the Emilyville Park well maintained?
Yes, I'm very happy to say that almost all the parks in Springfield are well maintained. And a lot of them have been renovated in the last 5 years, which is wonderful. And they've been using state grants, city grants to get it going. You know, it's very expensive to get things very nice. But they've really got things going, so it's very nice to visit a lot of these parks. And Emilyville Park included is a gorgeous place to visit. It has a new playground set for the older kids, a new playground set for the younger kids. And they have new signs all around, and the grass is incredibly green at this park and all the parks around the city. So I'm very impressed, and I'm very happy to say they've done a great job, and I hope they continue to improve all the parks and keep them up to a high standard.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can check out a large selection of our other podcasts on his website. Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life is Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Cooney. We're going to be discussing the Gordonville Park and Arboretum, located in Springfield, Massachusetts. So tell us about the Bill family.
The Bill family was a family of entrepreneurs. They owned a mill and other businesses around Springfield, and they got rich quick. I think Nathan Bill, one of their brothers, owned a paper mill, and Gordon owned another style of mill. So they have around town 5 parks named after that family. And that's important to keep in mind. There's a connection between many of these parks. And let me tell you what the parks are. The Emerson White Playground, that's I believe the father. Then the Emily Bill Park, I think that's the wife of Gordon Bill. Then the Gordon Bill Park. Then the Ruth Elizabeth Park and the Nathan Bill Park. And Nathan Bill was the brother of Gordon. And they had a son. Gordon had a son named Nathan, and he had a brother named Nathan. And the son, Nathan, is the one that donated the park in the beginning when his father, Gurdon, died. And they had it named after him, Gurdon Bill Park. And that's very interesting. And so today we're going to talk about where this park is located and also talk about the Arboretum that's part of the park and where was this Gurdon Bill house. But the Bill family is very important in the history of Springfield because his brother, Gurdon Bill's brother, Nathan Bill, was also the park commissioner around Springfield for many decades, almost up to 3 decades. And he got a strong park and playground system going in this community. And also he donated land so that the Bill family could be honored. And they honored him when he died. One of the parks was renamed in his honor itself. So it's a very important park and a very important family definitely within the city.
And where is this park located?
Okay, this park here, the Gurdon Bill Park, is located at 469 Liberty Street. The Mercy Hospital is about a quarter mile away, and the Rosary Church is about 200 yards away. And so it's a nice place, and it dates to the year 1916. And the community the street is pretty nice around that area. It's not great, it's not bad, but overall it's a pretty nice area, and it's very well maintained by the city.
And really quick before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to sign up for any of his various tours or find out more information, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops on each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for other inquiries or private tours, you can email him directly at bobcat4214 capital B at yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, the park is also an arboretum. So tell us about the trees.
An arboretum means a special park where a lot of species of trees are planted. Now, if you walk around, of course, you see the normal types of trees, the oaks, the maple, the lindens, the poplars, the poplar. I went during the middle of October, and the trees were already turning wonderful colors, especially the maples and a little bit on the oaks. And if you go down towards the dingle area, you'll see many more species down there. Not great on tree species categorization, but I know there's a lot of different kinds because you sweep your eyes around, you see a lot of varieties of trees. Now, they could do better in that area because it started its life as a park and arboretum. Now, it mostly looks like a park with a lot of nice trees, and I wish they'd get it back to being more towards the arboretum. And that would be really nice for Springfield.
And where was the Gurdon Bill house?
The Gurdon Bill house was right in the middle of the park. So when the land was donated by his son Nathan Bill, the house that the family lived in was given up in that year. I think it was the year 1916, and it was named after him. The house was given up to Springfield, but it just wore out and they had to take it down. I'm going to look at old maps and try to pinpoint it where it should be in that park, and when I do that, I'll put up the map right on the page that I've developed for this park, and you'll get to see where that house was. I wandered around the upper part and a part down the slope. I didn't go into the dingle area, but the house is probably not there. But I want to get a good sense on where that house was so you can see what his view was. Maybe you'll get an understanding why the family loved parks so much. Maybe it was such a gorgeous view out of the house that it faced towards the back, away from the street. It faced towards the street. And I want to see what other buildings were around at that time, see if they really appreciated their view, and that's why the Bill family was so generous to Springfield. So make sure you catch up the page on Gordonville Park and all the Bill parks and all the other legacy parks, because I'm trying to develop them as much as possible. And especially look out for maps that are coming around. And this is very important to Springfield, and a lot of urban locations have a lot of parks, and Springfield is one of those, because you have so many people around with very tiny backyards, and parks became their backyards.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can check out a large selection of our other podcasts. Thanks for tuning in to our podcast, Canal Days, What Life is Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Comone. Personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites throughout communities in the state of Massachusetts. The communities he chose to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In our episode today, we'll be talking about the Ruth Elizabeth Park, located in Springfield, Massachusetts. So, where is this park located within Springfield?
Yes, it's a very nice little park, part of two different systems, and we'll talk about that. But it's near three streets: Walnut, Hickory, and Hancock Street. And on the webpage that I made for this, I put a little link that says map, and it'll show you how to get to that location. All right. And today we're going to talk about not only where the park is, but its history and what features it might have inside of it, and then whether or not this park is well taken care of. And I like the part that is a connection with two different systems. We'll talk about those differently. But to find it easy, just find those streets. Or, if you know where the Watershop Army is, it's kitty corner across the street from there. So keep that in mind.
And what is the history of the park?
All right, made in 1922, so it's 103 years old this year. It's one of the Bill parks of Springfield, which means that the Bill family, which was very strong in Springfield, had 5 parks made. In fact, it was Nathan Bill that had that done. And Nathan Bill, for many of his relatives, named it after them. He didn't name his park after himself, but when he died, they named it after him. But the parks that were for the Bill family are Gurdon Bill, and he was the father of Nathan Bill, and that park is from 1916. His mother, Emily Dennison Bill, had a park named after her, and that park's from 1879. The Nathan Bill Park is from 1947. The Ruth Elizabeth White Bill Park is his wife, and that's from 1950. And then the Emerson White Park from 1890 is the father-in-law. So the one we're at right now, the Ruth Elizabeth Park, is actually one of the latter parks, but it was named for her in 1922, even though she was still alive. So it's one of it is the only park of the 5 Bill family parks where it was named after her and the person was still alive. So he named it after his own wife, and she was still around.
And really quick before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to sign up for any of his other tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And for other inquiries or to find out more information, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And his tours make great for fun activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, what features does the park have?
It has this really cool outdoor pavilion that's at a much lower elevation than the rest of the park. It's down towards that busy intersection, and has a placard inside it explaining the Springfield Army water shops, and then a couple of benches. Across the street, besides the armory, there's a school. And then within the park itself, it has a zigzag paved park. It has a baseball field within it, and then one basketball court. My favorite feature is that pavilion. It has the name of the park itself emblazed on the top roof of the pavilion, Ruth Elizabeth Park. And I think it's a really nice look to it. And yeah, it has a very nice perimeter sidewalk on 3 of the sides, and you can just walk around that. And so it's a cozy park. It does have its own also off-street parking lot too. And it's part of something very important, and that is called the Legacy Trail. So it's part of the Bill Family Parks of Springfield, but it's also part of the Legacy Trail. And in that Legacy Trail, you have 6 parks that are connected together. And this one here happens to be the biggest of those 6 parks, and probably the easiest to find. And there's a couple of the parks close to it, and 3 of them are further away. But if you walk up a street path between the 6, it's 2.2 miles long, and you can get a lot of exercise on it. So depending on which direction you go, if you go east on Hickory Street, you'll reach the Harriet Tubman Park. But if you go north, you reach the Garish Park. And so you go either direction to follow this trail. And the parks you'll meet along the way, let's say that you happen to go to the Tubman Park first. And then if you follow the map that's on the internet, on my webpage, and also on placards in every one of these 6 parks, and you'll find the trail. The next street you should take is Wilbraham Avenue, and there you will find Samuel Bolden Park. Take King Street and another side street to Pendleton Avenue, and you find the Donna Blake Park. Take Pendleton Avenue some more, and you find Barrows Park, and then go on Walnut Street backwards towards the Ruth Elizabeth Park, and along the way you'll find the Garish Park. And then take Hancock Street back to Ruth Elizabeth Park, and you're back to the start, and you followed the complete Legacy Trail around. So that little feature I love about the park itself.
And in your opinion, is the park taken care of?
I think that all these 6 parks of the Legacy Trail are well taken care of, and they're good to visit. I also think all the Bill parks are extra specially well taken care of. They don't have the 100 years ago look to them anymore. Some of them used to be also arboretums. That is gone. But this one here, the Ruth Elizabeth Park, is the biggest of the Bill Park and the biggest of the Legacy Trail parks. And it has a nice, well taken care of look to its grass, and the fields are taken well care of. And it's at a nice, busy intersection, but a nice intersection because there's a lot of history around it. Just be careful crossing the street around here.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And be sure to check out the videos and podcasts that are new, posted daily. And you can find a large selection on his website as well as on SoundCloud.com. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life Was Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. Today's episode will be discussing the Nathanville Park, located in Springfield, Massachusetts. So, where is Nathanville Park?
It's on Plumtree Road in Springfield. And it's very close to Allen Street. And it spreads out across that road very nicely. So it's close to being a rectangular style park. And remember, this is one of 5 Bill parks. So we're going to talk about not only the park, but who Nathan Bill is, and how well this park is kept and renovated, and what's inside the park and outside the park. And this is one of 5 Bill parks within the community of Springfield. And we'll talk about Nathan Bill, but I'll tell you the 5 parks so you know exactly what we're dealing with here. All right. And so the Emerson White Playground on Marble Street is one. And Emily Bill Park on Franklin Street is another one of those. Then the Gordon Bill Park is another. Then the Ruth Elizabeth Park. And then this wonderful Nathan Bill Park. So these 5 parks make up the parks that were donated by the Bill family.
And who is Nathan Bill?
He is considered the father of Springfield's parks and playgrounds because he was on the playground commission of Springfield for decades. And along the way, he donated a lot of his land, but also got a lot more playgrounds and parks going that were outside his family's purview. And that is wonderful. So there's many of them. You hardly ever go more than a half mile without having a park around, and especially in the congested area of South End, North End, and downtown, you'll have parks everywhere for you. And that's very important. It has a green oasis feel to it, and it's also a place that people who just want to have a nice time can go and relax in these wonderful parks. The whole Bill family has a park named after him. Nathan Bill himself had one. After he died, one of them was renamed in his honor. But his brother Gurdon and his sister-in-law and his wife and his mother-in-law all have parks. And so it's wonderful to see this wonderful concept. And one of them is connected together through Ruth Elizabeth Park on a legacy trail around Springfield where 5 of the neighborhood parks are connected on a trail. You can walk it. It's 2.2 miles long. And that's nice. It's urban trail and urban park system that's all connected.
And really quick, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at hoyocanaltour.org, and then you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for more information or for private tours, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun, educational outdoor activities for families and group parties. So, getting back to our interview, is the park nicely kept?
Yes, I was very surprised how very nicely kept it is. It's maybe been renovated recently. It has a nice sign out in front of it. And then inside you have 2 types of playground areas, one for the bigger kids and one for the smaller kids. You have picnic tables and park benches around. And the park is nice to wander around the outer perimeter. There's one baseball field. I think it's about the medium size. And then you have a place where you can park right inside the park itself. And it's very obvious the Playground Commission of Springfield does a great job on keeping up its playgrounds, keep them well manicured. This one has a lot of nice trees in it, and in this month of October, a lot of colors are shown on the trees.
And what is both inside and outside of the park?
Okay, so if you go outside the park, it's modern houses just outside. I think most parks in Springfield have older houses outside. I think in this case, the park might have been put in much later than all the others. I know that it's the last of the Bill parks. And it probably was just farmland around, and then they started putting some houses on lands that contractors build up. Now, inside the park itself, there seems to be one trail along one of the edges, and inside is one ball field, one basketball court, and of course those playground areas where the children can relax. And I found it very relaxing just walking around, seeing the fallen leaves around this particular area. And it's named after a wonderful person, and I felt a connection there where I love parks itself, and I was walking through an area where the father of the playground of Springfield, and also one of the members of the Bill family, who itself had 5 parks they donated. I felt a connection with them. So that was pleasant to know.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And of course, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can check out a large selection of our other podcasts on his website,